listen to the speaker. Okay, ready, everyone? Today's speaker is Norman Plotkin. His presentation is on artificial intelligence, which, as we all know, is currently the hot buzz, okay, among book and screenwriters. However, he firmly believes in the power of the human mind, and he has authored 3 books concerning mental health and wellness. He's a licensed hypnotherapist, but before that, he had a lobbying practice for 25 years, representing clients before the state legislature. Then, after surviving cancer in his 40s, he turned his experiences in advocating for others into a passion for helping people make positive changes in their private lives, such as changing bad habits and self-defeating behaviors, conquering stress and anxiety, and becoming more self-confident. What we'll learn from this presentation is that this new thing called artificial intelligence means there are no experts. The ability to bring your work to market has never been easier, and you are in control. The title of his presentation is Writing in the Age of Artificial. If you please make welcome Norman Plotkin.
Thank you. 你好，很高兴认识你。这里人会说中文吗？我现在说中文，我有中文老师，我有中国女朋友。Thank you. I'm sorry, I thought I was in the Chinese room. So in preparing this talk, I had to do some research. I'm not from tech, as you heard. I was a lobbyist. I was a community consultant. I didn't go to college until after the Marine Corps, and then the oil fields, and then a rock plant like Fred Flintstone, making little rocks out of big rocks. But in preparing for this, I couldn't help but feel a little bit like Winston. I wanted to break free and find someone who could share memories of the way things used to be before AI took over. I found an elderly man with whom I hoped to talk about the old way, but he had only personal recollections with significance only to him. I felt defeated at times, wondering if the past only exists in my mind. Are there no others who remember a time before AI, when creatives created? Seems like everyone who lived through time before AI is either ignorant of the surroundings or have become senile to the point where they no longer remember. Until I meet Julia. Julia wants to write creatively and express herself outside the boundaries of AI. Anybody know where that's from? 1984. Which I read in 1984. And I remembered it to this day. It left an impact. So who am I? I told you I was, a career as a lobbyist, worked in the legislature. Then the cancer changed everything. And initially I just wanted to get back to normal. And I realized normal was what made me sick. So I got the hell out of there. Good for you. And I moved to LA, and I was divinely guided to go to this hypnotherapy college. But I was influenced early on by my parents' alliteration. You see, my brother was Darling Dave, and I was Naughty Norm. And then they wondered why I spent my whole life asking for forgiveness instead of permission. I'm very unconventional. I start sentences with conjunctions, and sometimes I'll end them with a preposition, except I'll never say at. That's where I'm at. Sometimes I'll run on. Sometimes I'll toggle between passive and active. I'm a daredevil. I wrote an article to support a piece of legislation when I was a lobbyist for the Medical Association in the magazine Physician, and the Ivy League editors said, "Well, what is this?" And I said, "What do you mean, what is this? It's an allusion to Frederick Winslow Taylor rolling over in his grave because we're so inefficient." They said, "Who's Frederick Winslow Taylor?" I'm like, he was the efficiency expert who led Henry Ford into, the assembly line production. These are physicians. They're intelligent people. I'm not going to dumb my stuff down. We have someone from journalism. I had journalism in college. I refused to write at a 6th grade level. I read, and I want a dictionary and a thesaurus when I read, because I want to challenge my readers. I want them to be interested in what they're reading. So I'm a little unconventional. I wrote my whole professional life from analyses and persuasive speeches. In college, I was on speech and debate. I had a class, oral interpretation, and there were a bunch of folks from drama there. Greetings and am, Sam, I am. That just wasn't me. I brought together some poetry from Shakespeare, and the theme was nature and some other people and stuff. But anyway, writing, like reading, is creative, and it's an escape. My VA once, after I wrote a podcast, or actually a blog post, she sent it back to me, and I'm like, "What the hell is this?" I said, "What did you do to this?" She said, "I put it through Grammarly." I'm like, "Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again." So I had a question about what genres are represented, but you guys answered that. But I want this to be interactive, so please, by all means, I can put a placeholder in and pick up where I left off if you want to interact. Yeah, Larry.
It would help me if either someone would turn the volume up or you would keep that more in your mouth, because it's hard for me to do this.
How's this? Better?
Much better.
Okay. All right. All right. Better?
'Cause I want to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I want you to hear.
Thank you.
You got to get used to holding this a little closer to the face. It's been a while. When I started out as the reading clerk on the floor of the assembly. Somerville 492 by Miss Member Fernandez, neck related to taxation. And I would get really close to the mic so I could project. Anyway, I understand. So writing today, if you surveyed everyone you meet, about 95% of them would likely say that they want to write a book one day. Sadly, less than 3% of them will. Why? Because it requires organization and coaching and a budget, and realizing this dream remains elusive for most. Need I tell you? I mean, this is your vocation. This is why you gather. Despite having written professionally my whole adult life, from legislative analyses and political speeches, persuasive testimony, to opinion pieces, and even my friends' wedding vows, when it came time to write my first book, I tried for 3 years and got nowhere. We all familiar, the trash can overflowing wadded up pieces of paper. Of course, we do it electronically now, so that's an artifact of the bygone era. But we all have that imagery in our mind, right? So getting published can seem like a daunting task. You got to complete the manuscript that someone will want to read. Then there's a lot of inside baseball that was historically controlled by stuffy old legacy publishing houses. But if you got through the first part of that gauntlet, the production and distribution loomed large, which was, again, at the wheelhouse of the large publishing companies, because, like Twain said, careful about picking a fight with people who buy ink by the barrel. Canfield, we all know Canfield, Chicken Soup for the Soul. He tells a story. He drove around the country and bought 5,000 copies of his own book to get on the New York Times bestseller. Talk about distribution. So I broke through these barriers by being accepted into a very expensive coaching program that culminated in a contract with my first book being accepted by a New York publisher, Morgan James. This allowed me to concentrate on the organization and elements and the act of writing. I had coaching and accountability and deadlines. I went through the author incubator program, after which, and I had a developmental edit and I had a copy edit. And then I was hired to be an editor for her, an acquisition editor. So after which, I've read tens of thousands of book proposals. Today's options abound, and the digital age has expanded avenues for opportunities never before existed. I'll tell you, my experience at the New York publisher was largely one of hubris and ego. They own my book. Let me say that again. They own my book. They sell it, they buy it.
You said before that it was something in an ego.
Hubris. I wanted a New York publisher. That to me was the culmination, the piece de la resistance. But in the digital age, there are expanded avenues and opportunities like never before. The internet has created a veritable cornucopia of freelancers and professionals who are from the publishing world who are available to offer right down to, you can drill down to granularity where, your genre, and then granularity further down within your genre, to particular experience and expertise. And so there's a great deal of opportunity. And listen, I had a friend in the 90s and she wrote a book and there were staples in the middle. And I said, "Oh, cute, you wrote a book. That's awesome, I'm so proud of you." But that's not what I wanted my book to look like. I wanted a binding. I wanted artwork. I wanted a typeset. Right? All of these things that make it a real book. All of these things are available to you now in self-publishing. So my second and third books, I self-published. And I'm in control of the book. I make the money.
Make more money when it's self-published.
I make no money from the, I make no money from the New York published book. They let people buy it and return it after reading it. It's like eating the cheeseburger and returning the wrapper and they get their money back. And so, I've made money from my books, not from the book that's owned by Morgan James. I don't care though. The first book is Take Charge of Your Cancer, the 7 Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery. That was a birth that, I know, I'm a man, how could I really ever really know? But I had to give birth to that. That was a cathartic experience that I had to share what I learned in my cancer experience. I had to share it, I had to get it out of me. So I don't care. My son found a 5-star review on Amazon of a woman who bought it for her mom. And he screenshot it and sent it to me. They say if you read out, you won't get emotional. And I said, pretty cool. If one person is better, then the whole cancer was worth it. So I'm on to my next one. My next book was Mastermind, Master Life. And that's about sharing the power of the subconscious mind so that people can engage in self-regulation in a non-chemical, non-invasive, organic way. The power of hypnosis and hypnotherapy that I do now. And my third book was a collaboration with my partner after reading during the pandemic a 2-year online meditation class. It's called Meditation in the Meridians, and she's an acupuncturist. And so we took our this content that we created over the course of 2 years and we turned it into a book. It was really easy. In fact, I got it down now. It's formulaic. And plus I paid a bundle to go through the author incubator. It's literally formulaic for me. And now I coach and I edit. I do developmental edits. I do line edits. I'm editing right now a 180,000 word manuscript. And after having done so, I wrote her prologue in her flap copy. And so in the long term, the investment I made in myself going through the author incubator program will pay for itself in spades. First of all, I worked for her for 2 years as an acquisition editor, so I've already made my money back from her. Plus, then I've written 3 books, and they paid for themselves, and then some. And they are a calling card. Although I was remiss, like Bernard, and didn't bring any in case you wanted to buy them. But you know how to reach me if you're interested in my books. But anyway, opportunities abound. So back to Orwell, writing a book is a horrible, exhausting struggle, like a long bout of some painful illness. One would never undertake such a thing if one were not driven on by some demon whom one can neither resist nor understand. At the end of my books, I'm so freaking sick of them, I don't want to look at it again. Get it away from me. At the end of 3 rounds of edits of this manuscript, for which I'm being paid handsomely, get it away from me. Well, not yet, not until we get it across the finish line, but I don't want to read it again. She said, oh my gosh, it's like you know me when I wrote her prologue. I said, well, I've read your damn book 3 times. I made 5,000 edits in it. Over 5,000. How do I know? Because I used track changes and I made her accept or reject every one of them. All right. So I'm sure you've asked yourselves, who are you to write a book? Here's my inspiration. It's attitude is everything. Oh me, oh life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself forever reproaching myself for who more foolish than I and who more faithless, of eyes that vainly crave the light, of the objects mean of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plotting and sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and useless years of the rest, with the rest me intertwined. The question, oh me, so sad recurring, what good amid these, oh me, oh life? The answer is you are here, that you exist, and identity, and the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. You're here contributing your verses. They're your verses. And even though it's a crowded field now, because we can all participate because of Amazon and Upwork and the digital age, many don't. Many don't. And so you're here, adding your voice. Bravo. How am I a good writer? I'm a good reader. I'm a voracious reader. Whether it's the Transcendentalists, whether it's Bronte reminding me that my father was a king. I realize I'm gonna get choked up a little bit today. My father a king, my mother a queen, and I a prince from a faraway land, as Heathcliff returned to Wuthering Heights. So I'm also hypothyroid right now. I'm transitioning in from medications and stuff, so I'm usually not. Anyway, emotion is good. I hope you can feel the emphasis that I'm bringing to this. So anyway, here's what we're all here for. What is AI? Simply put, AI is a robust database with a large language model with a string of code for operation. Ta-da! Google on steroids. AI is in your car. AI is in your alarm clock. AI is in your dishwasher. But AI can never be anything that it wasn't told to be by a programmer. So how is never gonna take over, whether it's 2001 or 2050, because we're gonna go into why in a second. But artificial intelligence, and by the way, full disclaimer, fair use. I've lifted all of this off the internet. I'm not an expert. And I'm using it for educational purposes and not my personal gain. So this is available to you too. But I wanted to bring it together and share it in a way that the layperson could feel like they could understand and appreciate and not be afraid of. Okay. So it's the simulation of human intelligence processes by machines, especially computer systems. Specific applications of AI include expert systems, natural language processing, speech recognition, and machine vision. Machine vision, not thinking, it's repetitive. As the hype around AI has accelerated, vendors have been scrambling to promote how their products and services use it. Often what they refer to as AI is simply a component of the technology, such as machine learning. Repetitive processes over and over and over, quickly, faster than we can. AI requires a foundation of specialized hardware, and that's the platform, and software for writing and training machine learning algorithms. No single programming language is synonymous with AI, but Python, R, Java, C++, and Julia have features popular with AI developers. In general, AI systems work by ingesting large amounts of labeled training data, analyzing the data for correlations and patterns, and using these patterns to make predictions about future states. They just run ahead like the rabbit and are waiting for the tortoise. In this way, a chatbot that is fed examples of text can learn to generate lifelike exchanges with people, or an image recognition tool can learn to identify and describe objects and images by reviewing millions of examples. New, rapidly improving generative AI techniques can create realistic text, images, music, and other media. So the components of AI are applications. There's image recognition, speech recognition, chatbots, natural language generation, sentiment analysis, types of models, deep learning, machine learning, neural networks, software and hardware for training and running models, GPUs, parallel processing tools like Spark, cloud data storage, computer platforms, programming languages for building models, Python, TensorFlow, Java, C. You know, our computing power has given rise to these elaborate models. They can do all kinds of great stuff, but if you don't factor all of the salient components necessary for a robust model, you're gonna just have a cheap model. I mean, yeah.
It's okay if we ask questions?
Yes, please.
I'm curious that AI has been around for many years. Why is it now become such a strong buzzword that, everywhere you turn, they talk about AI?
Because computing power grows exponentially every year, and our ability to speed with lightning into multiple processes has just given us a very sophisticated repetition. And we're able to, and that's why it's really good at repetitive tasks. I mean, search engines were the first example of this.
Say that again?
Search engines were the first example of this.
Interesting.
Yes, well, and I just want to add one thing to
Yes.
that. It's gotten so much easier. People don't have to think now. That's what Ethan said, coupled with sophisticated user interface, makes it so you can access that technology.
That's right. So in the beginning, there was WYSIWYG.
Right.
What you see is what you get. But the display is now, it's so much faster. It's really a function of computing capacity and speed, right? So here
Can
then,
I add something?
yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna add too, that's what you said, and I think it's also the use of the human form and voice, face, that makes it more, I don't know, scary in a sense, but also familiar,
Consumable.
consumable for the word.
Oh, that's right.
As Chris asked, why is it so prevalent now? It's before AI was in its infancy, the concepts were all there and pulled out. There was really a platform to put it on. AI can be ubiquitous, like it's self-driving car. We don't need to talk to it, drive, it takes A to B. Hopefully, but you have a platform on which you work. That's why it's so prevalent today in society.
Yeah, let me give you an example of that. Web 1.0. Okay, my first website in 1996 had an applet that was a waving flag and some colored push pins, and people were like, ooh, ah, ooh. I said, no, my next door neighbor's a computer science student at Sac State. Today, your website better be performing a whole lot of functions, capturing who visits, giving you the analysis, tracking them, keeping them warm, making them a prospect, touching them again, knowing what they like, knowing where they visited. You see what I'm saying? Now we're in web 10.7. And so now I need to hire experts. I could wing it in the early days, but not anymore. So the whole thing, the whole, as people, this is what we do. We build silos of expertise, and then we broach those silos out in different directions, and our base broadens.
I find that, all of that stuff that you talk about, and Grix, Grammarly, MailChimp, all of those things that I use are an important part of my, writings and stuff, are a lot more user-friendly than it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's much more than what you see is what you get. There's a lot going on behind the scenes.
My phone the other day picked up an address, gave me the directions, not in my calendar, it was an address that I had in my notes,
That's right.
and that was a little scary.
Cross-platform communication. That's right. Google, Gmail sorts your mail for you before you've even opened it. You got 3 different folders: social, promotions, and inbox. It's ubiquitous. It's the future. It focuses on cognitive skills that include learning. This aspect of AI programming focuses on acquiring data and creating rules for how to turn it into actionable information. The rules, which are called algorithms, provide computing devices with step-by-step instructions for how to complete a specific task. Reasoning. This aspect of AI programming focuses on choosing the right algorithm to reach a desired outcome. Self-correction. This aspect of AI programming is designed to continually fine-tune algorithms and ensure they provide the most accurate results possible. Still has to measure it against its database. Ain't gonna come up with something new. Creativity. This aspect of AI uses neural networks, rules-based systems, statistical methods, and other AI techniques to generate new images, new text, new music, and new ideas. This is where Sandra, the realism with which you can create an image, this human image, it's almost uncanny how it lures people in. Yeah. Think, reason, shed a tear at the microphone, and in an opportune moment. Pros and cons. What are the advantages and disadvantages? Artificial neural networks and deep learning AI technologies are quickly evolving. primarily because AI can process large amounts of data much faster and make predictions more accurately than humanly possible. While the huge volume of data created on a daily basis would bury a human researcher, AI applications using machine learning can take that data and quickly turn it into actionable information.
Can I ask what machine learning is?
Machine learning is where you programmed this machine to learn to use its database and its program to adapt to some new information. That's different than thinking, because its universe has to be programmed, but it can learn to look at data differently.
You think we're gonna say that 100 years from now? Well, he's saying, he's talking about the difference between AI and human, but we're really in the infancy stages of AI, I think. 100 years from now, God knows.
In 1969, I built a little cardboard control panel with pipe cleaners and toothbrushes, and as we watched Neil Armstrong watch him jump in the moon. So how on earth can I, like my father, born in 1925, saw, a crude automobile and then man on the moon. Like, so 100 years from now, I can't, I'm not even gonna venture. Yeah, I mean, it's the speed with which,
That was a good answer.
So there's a huge volume of data created on a daily basis with very human research. As of this writing, a primary disadvantage of AI is that it is expensive to process the large amounts of data AI programming requires. So these big data sets are the foundation for the AI. AI disadvantages, it's good at detail-oriented jobs, repetition, reduced time for data-heavy tasks, saves labor, increases productivity, delivers consistent results, can improve customer satisfaction through personalization. Well, that's questionable. All AI-powered virtual agents are always available, and just slightly more available than Nikki in the Philippines. And they don't need to sleep or take breaks, providing 24/7 service, just slightly better than Nikki in the Philippines. So notice, I want you to see a bias here. I lifted this off the internet. So the advantages page was considerably larger than the disadvantages page. What do you think the perspective of the guy who I ripped this off from? AI disadvantages: expensive, requires deep technical expertise. Although hopefully you think I'm winging it pretty good, but I'm not deploying it. Limited supply of qualified workers to build AI tools, but growing. Reflects the biases of its training data at scale. Lack of ability to generalize from one task to another. Eliminates human jobs, increasing unemployment rates.
I would add another one.
Yeah.
And that is funnels thinking or business to uniformity. There's a room for diversity.
Beautiful. That's why I led with Orwell in 1984. Strong versus weak. AI can be categorized as weak or strong. Weak AI, also known as narrow AI, is designed and trained to complete. I'm going to rush through this stuff because I want to get to this more interactive stuff. So I'm just going to present this information, ask questions, and I'll do my best, but I want to cover this information, and because I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this. So weak AI, known as narrow AI, is designed and trained to complete a specific task. Industrial robots and virtual personal assistants such as Apple Siri use weak AI. Strong AI, also known as artificial general intelligence, AGI, describes programming that can replicate the cognitive abilities of the human brain, although we're not quite there yet. When presented with an unfamiliar task, a strong AI system can use fuzzy logic to apply knowledge from one domain to another and find a solution autonomously. In theory, a strong AI program should be able to pass both the Turing test and the Chinese room argument. Ha! You wondered why the heck I started with Chinese, didn't you? The Chinese room argument is a thought experiment now generally known as the Chinese room argument, was first published in 1980 by an American philosopher, John Searle. It's become one of the best known arguments in recent philosophy. Searle imagines himself alone in a room following a computer program for responding to Chinese characters slipped under the door. Searle understands nothing of Chinese, and yet by following the program for manipulating symbols and numerals, just as a computer does, he sends appropriate strings of Chinese characters back out under the door. And this leads those outside to mistakenly suppose there's a Chinese speaker in the room. I'm sorry, no one was going to confuse me for a native Chinese speaker, no matter how in awe you were of my burgeoning capabilities. I'm never going to be, and neither is AI.
I thought you were talking backwards.
And that would have been a Beatles song. So the broader conclusion of this argument is that the theory that human minds are computer-like computational or information processing systems is refuted. Instead, minds must result from biological processes. Computers can at best simulate those biological processes. Thus, the argument has large implications for semantics, philosophy of language and mind, theories of consciousness, computer science, and cognitive science generally. As a result, there have been many critical replies to this argument. The Turing test, originally called imitation game by Alan Turing in 1950, harkening back to it's been around for a long time, is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to or indistinguishable from that of a human. Indistinguishable from that of a human. And these are the tests that we need to be applying and discerning so that we cannot be fooled again. We won't be fooled again. Who? Oh, yeah. So there are a couple of tests. There's discernment available to us. We can understand, we can apply our wisdom, our understanding, our discernment to make sure that we're not drawn in by this picture that looks so real, but she looked so real. So the Turing test results don't depend on the machine's ability to give correct answers to questions, only on how closely it answers. Its answers resembles those of a human would give. Since the Turing test is a test of indistinguishability and performance capacity, the verbal version generalizes naturally to all of human performance capacity, verbal as well as nonverbal, i.e. robotic. Just quickly, the types of AI. Reactive AI is good for simple classifications and pattern recognition. There's limited memory. It can handle complex classification tasks, able to use historical data and make predictions. Theory of mind, able to understand human motives and reasoning, deliver personal experiences to everyone based on their motives and needs. That's why they're collecting all this data on you, by the way. They're going to dish it back out to you as if they're your best dang friend. Self-awareness, human level intelligence that can bypass our intelligence too. Considered a long shot goal. 100 years, perhaps? Self-awareness, that's, you see the crossover here? Like, I teach mindfulness and meditation, and self-awareness and self-regulation. And it's such a bridge too far. And even if we do build that bridge, it's like the bridge on the River Kwai. It'll get blown up by some clandestine strike team. Enter ChatGPT and chatbots, the latest and greatest interaction with artificial intelligence. Natural language processing tool driven by AI technology that allows you to have human-like conversations and much more with the chatbot. The language model can answer questions and assist you with tasks, such as composing emails, essays, and code. Generative AI models of this type are trained on vast amounts of information from the internet. They crawl the internet and create robust databases. Websites, books, news articles, and more. Books. And we're going to get into this in a minute because there are databases of books. Books 3 is like 200,000 different books that have been used, pirated, and they become part of robust databases. And your book may be part of ChatGPT's robust data set. And now they're ripping you off to write bits of book for someone else. So and we'll get into that more in a minute. So the language model is fine-tuned using supervised learning as well as reinforcement learning. The use of reinforcement learning from human feedback is what makes ChatGPT especially unique. Through this reinforced learning through human feedback, AI trainers provide the model with conversations in which they play both parts, the user and AI assistants, according to OpenAI. Drives me nuts. For a couple times I tried it, like that's so lame. I'd be so embarrassed to put that in front of anybody. You suck, ChatGPT. And I realized I'm the one who has to fine tune it. It's on me. I gotta keep giving it directions and more prompts. So why don't I just do it my damn self? You know what I mean? Like, why do I gotta train you to replace me? I'm just gonna do it myself. Not so fast. Despite looking very impressive, ChatGPT still has limitations. Users sometimes need to reword questions multiple times. No, I really meant this. For ChatGPT to understand the intent. And biases. The data inputters have biases. Oh, and by the way, it's only up to date to 2021. So if something happened recently. I mean, I saw a thing where someone used AI to write a book about the Maui fires within 24 hours of the Maui fires, But maybe so. Bonnie?
So this whole thing of intent, is that implying that you are using your intuition when you understand another person's words? Because if you just go with just words, you can easily misunderstand.
Absolutely.
Humans are using intuition.
Why do you think LOL came about, or memes?
Laugh out loud.
Yeah, because in the early day of email, people were like, what? What do you mean by that? Nasty email returned. No. Roll on the floor laughing. But we had to give emotional cues to each other because email was one dimensional, flat, and devoid of any emotion. I can't read your body. Can't see the expression on your face. So instead of asking for clarification on ambiguous questions, the model just guesses what your question means. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. Which can lead to unintended responses to questions. And this limitation led developer question and answer site Stack Overflow to at least temporarily ban ChatGPT generated responses to questions. The primary problem is that while the answers that ChatGPT produces have a high rate of being incorrect, they typically look like it might be good. Oh, I got something here. And I didn't even and I turn it in, I could bill for an hour.
So they don't recognize, they don't understand the question. You often see like computers or robots going, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but these guys are doing it, they're just coming up with an answer.
Yeah, because AI hasn't fully understood non sequitur. So critics argue that these tools are just very good at putting words into an order that makes sense from a statistical point of view. Hence, it's great at repetitive tasks, right? But they cannot understand the meaning or know whether the statements it makes are correct. People are expressing concerns about AI chatbots replacing or atrophying human intelligence. That was another point that was brought up. For example, the chatbot can write an article on any topic efficiently, though not necessarily accurately, within seconds, potentially eliminating the need for a human writer. The human biller can bill for an hour for that non-human writer's seconds composition. But if you've ever been to Tijuana, my girlfriend's son came back from his first road trip. He went to camping in Santa Cruz, and he came in, he's all proud. He said, came across a guy who was in trouble on the road. I pulled over to help him. And he said he just needed a couple $100 and he would sell me his Rolex. And I'm like, oh, son, that's a great watch. It's not a Rolex. So the chatbot can also write an entire essay within seconds, making it easier for students to cheat or avoid learning how to write properly. I mean, we all learn on a 5-paragraph composition, intro, 3 paragraphs, conclusion. Tell them what you're gonna tell them 3 times, tell them what you just told them. I mean, that's the foundation, right? Lord knows kids aren't learning other stuff that they should, but another concern with AI chatbot is the possible spread of misinformation. Ask Jordan Peterson about re-education camps. Since the bot is not connected to the internet, it could make mistakes in what information it shares. And it's only programmed through 2021. I mean, imagine the difference just in the last 2 years. How different is the world today than it was in 2021? The bot itself says my responses are not intended to be taken as fact. And I always encourage people to verify any information that they receive from me or any other source. It'll be a thing. OpenAI also notes that ChatGPT sometimes writes plausible sounding but incorrect, nonsensical answers. With concerns about students using ChatGPT to cheat, the need for ChatGPT text detectors becoming more evident, and they're popping up all over the place. Finally, a study shows that humans might be able to detect AI written text by looking for politeness. The study results indicate that ChatGPT's writing style is extremely polite. And unlike humans, it cannot produce responses that include metaphors, irony, sarcasm, or other emotions, to Bonnie's point. And so I return, O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring. Yes.
You've read about or heard about the use of ChatGPT by troll farms to put books onto Kindle Unlimited. You heard anything about that?
It wouldn't surprise me.
I subscribe to a number of blogs by writers. Just really briefly,
Yeah.
I think that these Russian troll farms are flooding Kindle Unlimited with fake books with chat. And the reason they think that is since ChatGPT came out over a few months, the more high-end version of it. Suddenly the percentage per sale that each person who has a book of Kindle Unlimited receives has gone down by about 66%. So if your book's on Kindle Unlimited, you get paid for every time somebody turns a page. They subscribe to Kindle Unlimited, they can download as many books as they want. Every time they flip the page on your book, you get paid quarter over quarter over quarter. So that quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter keeps going down because all of these fake books are flowing. People are uploading them, not knowing that they're reading pages and I thought that was fascinating, and it's an example of how these tools can really screw up writers' lives.
I mean, the potential for malice is exponential at the speed of ChatGPT. I mean, they can just keep doing it, repeating it. Yeah.
As you and I were talking before, the problem with all this is that this is not intelligence, right? And it's certainly not artificial. It's absolute, but it's not intelligence. So calling it artificial intelligence is a misnomer, or it's an inaccurate label. And the reason that it works is because people don't like to think. It takes too much effort to think. People would rather sit in front of a ChatGPT and have a conversation with it and try and get it to write what it wants, what the user wants, rather than sit at the computer and write something to ChatGPT and, oh my God, here ChatGPT, edit this, right? It's like,
Right.
let ChatGPT write it, if you edit it, it's your brain thinking. And that's the problem, is that people don't want to think.
Plus,
That's an important point, because it's not intelligence, and that's what I always try and reinforce in everybody, whenever I talk to people, it's a simulation.
it's a simulation. That's right. And in addition to not wanting to think, they don't have to take responsibility.
That's true.
Yep. Everyone wants credit. No one wants the responsibility.
There was also a thought that humanity, there's an old program called Eliza, Eliza, keep a piece of software. It was written in BASIC, which is a very simple program. And I was, in my early days, I typed it in and made it run. That's how simple it is. No database, no nothing. All it did is a few simple words. So you would type on the command, like check. I feel sad today. And all it did was take that sound, turn it around, and throw it back at me. Something like, why do you feel sad today? You always feel sad, so think about that. And people then have very heart-rendering, meaningful conversations with a piece of garbage, right? And go away and go, wow, I feel so much better. And I go, really?
So to your point, I studied tarot under a psychologist, a Jungian analyst who's written 5 books on tarot and psychology. He's a brilliant man. He wrote his doctoral thesis on tarot and psychology. He's a Jungian analyst, and it's the archetypes. And I use the tarot cards therapeutically. But he's divorced in his 60s, a little over a few more pounds than he used to carry, and he feels invisible with the type of women he wants to meet. And so he signed up for this service, and he had a girlfriend in Russia who was a medical doctor, and they wrote flowingly. I mean, she was his Anna Karenina. And I read it, and he had me read something. I said, Dr. Art, I don't want to bruise you. I love you, man. But she didn't answer anything you said. I'm sure it made you feel good. But she didn't answer anything you said. And then I took her image and I put it in Google Images, and it was labeled woman. There was no, and I said, well, she knows your name. She could Google you. He said, they don't have Google. Said, oh my God. So I typed in, what's the top search engine in the Ukraine? Google. I'm like, okay, well, if 2 + 2 is not adding up to 4 to you, then I'm not going to be the one to step between you and your fantasy. But that's to your point, and to your point, and to your point. This is the danger of what we're dealing with, because and several of you are writing dystopian novels in this world we live in. As a hypnotherapist in the last 3 years have isolated and alienated a lot of people. I'm seeing a lot of people for agoraphobia. I'm seeing young people who don't want to leave the house. And so if it can make you feel better, some are like, who cares? I'm in love.
Yeah, it's for money.
Yeah.
Oh, he was, what, are you kidding? That was 4 steps ago. He was already invested. It cost him money for every letter he got. I'm like, Dr. Art, her name's Igor. And I felt genuinely bad for him, but at some point, it's not my job to wreck this guy. But a highly intelligent man was gone in. He had to know it was delusion. Like, his training had to, and he just knowingly participated in the delusion, and that made him happy. So will we ever address that? I'm not sure. That's for us mental health practitioners, perhaps. I'm not sure. At the end of the day, you have a creative voice. Don't fear any of this fugazi stuff. Will it get better? Probably. Will it get better at fooling and duping and ripping people off? There'll always be those people. But don't be the Tijuana Rolex. And don't fear. And don't believe it's ever going to be able to pass Chinese language under the door that fools a Chinese speaker. You know what I'm saying? That was that was the point that I want to get across. You're creatives. Be inspired by, we've all read books. What are your favorite books? After I answer your question, I want to hear. I shared a few of my favorites, and there's, oh gosh, I could go on and on and on, but I'd like to hear some of the books that inspire you, even business writing books. But go ahead, Sandra.
Oh,
So I don't have a question, but I wanted to make a comment, a less dramatic story than yours. I was talking to a former journalist of the Sacramento Bee, a long-term journalist, who said that she had sat in a public place, and it may, in my mind, I'm remembering the story, she was on an airplane, and she was sitting next to a young, what we used to call a cub reporter, with a laptop, and he had a deadline, and she watched him submit 3 stories simply by using AI. He didn't do any other investigative reporting. He just mixed and matched, turned the stories in. The moral of the lesson here is, what are we reading in today's newspapers?
6th grade drivel.
It's, they say that, but I wrote for the Business Journal for 10 years. And my editors, every one of them said the same thing. You write at too high grade level, you need to write at 6th grade. So I got a thing that does the analysis of the words. And I took one of the ones that they edited and said, this is what we're talking about. Give me an example. Tell me where I'm not meeting your standards. And they sent it back. And it came back at between 4th grade and 5th grade, not 6th grade.
Even worse.
I'm so glad.
And I monitored this, and it is not 6th grade. It is below 6th grade. And this is the Sacramento Business Journal. Now, this was 2003 to 2014 or something like that. So it's not today, but it's pretty damn recent.
Yeah, my saying is I don't let people walk across my mind with dirty feet.
Yeah.
But those programs that measure grade level are really only measuring syllables and word, sentence length and word complexity. You could write something, that was scored in 3rd or 4th grade level that would blow people's mind, the most moving people's mind. I mean, not everything's about how long the sentence is or how many syllables. In other words, I think part of what's going on is that just an inaccurate measure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I agree with you, and the way you said at the beginning, a book that I enjoy requires us to start in a detail. I'm not going to enjoy it if it doesn't make me look words out. And the stuff I was writing was not complicated. It was, and it wasn't the kind of stuff you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, and I agree with you 100%. I'm telling you, they wanted me to write to business people. And if these people couldn't understand what I was writing, then they should be removed. Because when I write at that level, because I do this professionally, these people understand it. The business journal wouldn't accept it.
So there's probably some calculation that the average business writer will give 42.5 seconds to anything he's gonna pick up, and they're following it. I'm not really arguing with you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying these things, I just question the way all this stuff is measured. And I was a journalist a really long time ago, and we never discussed grade level. I mean, maybe I just always looked at the grade level, and nobody complained, but that's not what, I don't remember talking about that.
The goal was to have the broadest possible appeal, right? So
Right.
that was,
One thing I want to bring up, and I don't know, this could be a great way to close the meeting, but you're a fellow cancer survivor, and I'm gonna bet that you've used the power of your mind, because that's what you're kind of doing now for a living, to help heal your cancer. So my thought, what I've always heard, we've only accessed our brains to like 10 or 15%, but in the future, when we're able to access more of our own brain, we'll be able to better heal illness. What's your thought on that?
I couldn't agree more, but the trend is going in the wrong direction. So to the extent that we rely on ChatGPT and all of this other BS,
Exactly.
we're never going to expand the fullness of our capacity. And
That's a sad thing.
yeah, I don't, no fluoride toothpaste, filtered water, like I just, I manage what goes in my body. Yes.
Would like to say that the differences of human capacity for emotions, anger, love, passion, humor,
All of that is never going to be AI. We we still have the ability to rise above it and be able to determine the difference. And it might get harder as we go on. It might, over the years, it might catch up with us. But as you said in the beginning, when creatives created, we are creatives.
And, if you could sum up my goal today, you just did. Thank you.
Oh, you guys planned that.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Nice to meet you.
Thanks so much. Get more information.